10th of July, Media Center of Ukraine. My name is Svetlana Cheparenko. Today, Kiev survived another massive rocket and missile and drone attack, very hard night. But Media Center of Ukraine continues working, and we will be talking today about the study of the Dilova Stolytsia. We will be talking about who is the next potential leader in the Russian Federation, because it is important for Ukrainians to know if there will be any changes at all, or how they will influence the situation. Hello, Vladislav Cheparenko. First of all, I would like to say that this study was conducted by the Dilova Stolytsia newspaper, and the main author is Volodymyr Nahirnik. It's a philosophy doctor, a few other philosophy doctors, a known specialist on the Middle East, and me, Vladislav Denysenko. So what do we start with? We will start with, in our area, it is always about economy of Russia will soon fall. It will disintegrate very soon. A lot of questions is being posed. How this background is going to, how the peers of Putin are going to kill him, basically. Well, I'll say that there is always operation, covert operation in mind. We are keeping it in mind. It is possible. However, we need to understand that the consequences of such operation are very far-reaching, and they are. So this operation is probably not likely. Topic of the successor for Vladimir Putin in the Russian Federation is forbidden. It's a complete taboo. Putin is actually not thinking about who is his successor every day. That's not true. So the subject of this question for him is concluded on the condition that anybody who mentions this subject will be persecuted. However, despite all of this, despite the story of the taboo of Putin's successor, the Russian elites already started to think and act within the context of transition of power in the Russian Federation. So why do we conclude that they are thinking in this context? We need to start with the fact that a year ago, in March, there were elections in the Russian Federation. There was a lot of talk in our country about it, and we all have seen that there was no actual elections there. Everybody understood that this was the elections of Putin. So the important part of this story is that these elections signified total zeroification, total zeroing of the so-called agreement between Putin and the population of the Russian Federation. In this context, the relationships with elites in the Russian Federation have been restarted. They started from the blank document. And there were a few steps from on part of Vladimir Putin that led to creation around Vladimir Putin of, or we can say it was preserved around him. 20-25 people are preserved around him that are untouchables, and all the rest basically have received a red card, and everybody understood that everybody else, except those 20-25 people, can go to jail, no problem. So we are receiving the news of this or that a public figure being executed or accidentally deceased, you know. And in 2024, we can start with 2024. These processes started earlier, but we will start with 2024 as a year that that has shown solidification of Putin's vertical power. So, what these things led to is the fact that the governors of the Russian regions could not previously they could not be jailed. Now. So it was nonsense before. These cases were unique previously, before 2024. There was one governor in Russia who went to jail, but it was totally a unique case. All the rest, and in all other cases, those were untouchable people. They knew that they can steal the governors. And they felt that they are basically covered, and if anything happens in terms of legal altercations, they are covered by higher power. What happens right now is that they don't have this guarantee anymore. Again, this question we can divide into two instances. If you are stealing from a Russian budget and you are caught red-handed, this means it will be investigated. If you have been stealing from the military budget, then in this case you are getting the maximum term in the jail, and or your other choice is to basically shoot out with the siloviki in Russian Federation. What we are seeing what we have been observing all the time is that the secret services are untouchable still. Nobody, not a single member of the FSB has been jailed in recent years, and this is obvious. Let's shift our focus a little bit further. What else is influencing this regime of transition of power in the conditions that the Russian people are living in? So this is a war that influenced the budget, which diminished the pie, basically, and the war for resources inside the Russian Federation has intensified, basically, and what is being brought up right now in Russian Federation more and more often is the question of nationalization of state resources. And we're already seeing that the businesses in Russia that could be nationalized, it is actually easier to raid them, to acquire them illegally, and we the money we're talking about is around $40 billion, basically. However, the key beneficiaries for the income, for the state income is again Patrushev, Chemizov. Those are Russian oligarchs that's been in the focus of Russian media. We can also mention Kadyrov. However, after 2023, he is not getting anything. That's what we are observing. So this is the situation we are having right now. How elites are thinking. The elites are thinking in the terms of how can they rob something, acquire illegally, or what they cannot touch. So in this whole story, the key actors are not the FSB, but the general prosecutor, Krasnov. Which is surprising. However, it is also definitive, because we are seeing that he received unseen before powers, authority, and unprecedented authority. And he is basically not answering to anybody right now in the Russian Federation. However, it is also obvious that conditions that he is working at this position is that he is not crossing the paths with state interests. And what other groups we can designate in the Russian Federation right now? First, we would start with the liberal opposition. I would like to start with the so-called good Russians. They are receiving a lot of finance from European Union, from European countries, and they represent the Russian Federation in some other domains than the president of the Russian Federation, Vladimir Putin. And as Lenin said, the separation between the elites and the Russian population is high as never before. And right now, population of the Russian Federation is not influencing anything in the Russian Federation. What is more important from our point of view is that as of today, the Russian liberal community could not propose any kind of ideological alternative. So the problem of Russian liberal group is collective is that they did not propose any kind of path after the death of Navalny. And this is one of most important moments in this whole thing. When we are talking about the power transition in the Russian Federation, we are we are predicting that the most probable are those who are most afraid of getting power in the Russian Federation. And we are talking about these oligarchs that we were talking about today. What I would like to add, that when we are talking about alternative ideology, it is a key problematic for Ukraine in general, or for a post-Putin space in the geopolitics. So it doesn't really matter, because 99% of Ruski Mir, Ruski world, is living in the conditions where they don't even know there is a liberal force in the Russian Federation. Let's follow with the main ideology of the Russian Federation. We have been calling them hurrah patriots, the ideologues of the Russian world. during the whole time that Putin is in power, they are never allowed to the pie. Their place is concrete. It was precisely designated. You cannot disobey. You cannot. You should always act within the policy that is designated by Putin, and in a few iterations, there was some kind of actions that they tried to conduct. However, after a few iterations of the power, they're basically unheard of right now. As of right now, we can only talk about marginalized groups of political groups, or people that have been bought specifically to sway the boat. However, it does not influence anything in terms of state policy. So the next group is this is the group that is supposed to provide some kind of continuation for the policy after the power shift in the Russian Federation. However, it's 25% of the population of the Russian Federation, and they are the most extreme, radical layer of society in the Russian Federation, who are ready to go until the very end in the war against Ukraine. They are called, as I said, Hurrah Patriots, and
And basically, I don't know what to do with this category of population. This is one of the key challenges that the Kremlin bloc is working on, the internal bloc of Kremlin. But by larger account, the choice in the future, specifically during the transition of power, will be quite limited. Again, 25% of the population is a pretty big number. And during the power transition, they may play, unless it's some harsh military coup, some harsh transition of power during liberalization of the regime, they may play on a pretty serious electoral function. Meanwhile, they have a pretty limited number of options what to do. They either may remain as servants of the regime or become marginalized. However, it's obvious that some of them are going to play all in. The question is whether there will be money found for them, whether there will be media resources that will allow them to establish certain political forces. That's why this is the situation we're having with this category of people. When it comes to the veterans, they don't match with those 25% of the population who want to continue fighting until the very last Ukrainian. The veterans are a little bit of a different cohort of population who will definitely play an important role in the political future of Russian Federation. Their number will not be so big, but some part of them will definitely be proactive, and they will be able to exercise their rights. And the Russian authorities have already started working with them. They started thinking about how to incorporate them. And the key factor that the internal Kremlin bloc is seeing is the attempt to incorporate infinitesimal part of those people into power so that the veterans beat the other veterans. This is the way I call this formula. On one end, a large fraction of them will be incorporated in policing structures, and another larger fraction will be incorporated into federal enforcement service. So basically, they will be talking to their former brothers in arms at the same level, in the same language. So this will be the transition of the veterans to their civil life. So first, infinitesimal part that will be allowed into the power, into the authorities. What they say, 10% of the seats will be allocated for the veterans by the political party Единая Россия. Then another fraction will join police, and we understand that the crime will be rising after the war. And then the Federal Enforcement Service. So this is going to be the Trinity function, so to say. This is how they're going to calm themselves down. So again, if a part of the nationalists, those hooray patriots, will be capable of establishing any political force, it's quite real that the backbone of this force will be that military journalists or other persons around them. But currently the Kremlin is afraid of establishment of any such political force, and probability of us seeing anything like that during the initial phases is pretty low. So which part of these new elites will define the positions of this group? It will depend on the type of transition of power, whether it will be harsh or not so harsh. But nevertheless, for the time being, these are the options that we're seeing for these categories of people. Also, I would like to mention the diplomatic elites, because during the transition of power, they exercise serious function. But currently, the Russian diplomatic elites are not involved in the transition of power at all. They live in just their, well, not, it would be wrong to say parallel world, but the world of servants. They are transformed into ideological machine, and they cannot change their position now. So now the Russian diplomatic elites are hardly going to play any role in the transition of power. Also, we need to understand that the army, if we are saying that army should become important during the war, the authorities did everything for the army not to become a subject itself. The Russians have gotten pretty serious consensus between the so-called bureaucrats and the Siloviki, the law enforcement, who are not interested in getting the army involved in their political games whatsoever. That's why the Minister of Defense position was given to Belousov, and Gerasimov remains in the shadow. If we check the trust rating, Gerasimov is trusted by 17 to 18% of the Russians, one of the lowest trust levels in Russian Federation. And the same story applies everywhere. There are no generals in Russian army who will grow into a Zhukov. And this trend will continue. During the transition of power, the army may play a certain role in case there are some serious colonels or even generals who may join one of the winning sides. But say that army is the only subject who could say that we are standing behind some conditional Zhukov. No, there is no such thing that would exist, and nothing like that may emerge by the end of the war. Now let's proceed to the specific names. We have to understand that in the Russian Federation, for the time being, there are two big tandems. They were existing one way or another before, but now they're moving exactly in the same direction. I mean, they've joined now and they're moving in the same direction. The first and the most interesting for us is Patrushev-Chemezov. Despite Patrushev having been reposed from NSDC head, he was overseeing the Siloviks, the law enforcement. He still preserves some influence in the law enforcement, in FSB in the first place, and Chemezov has not only preserved but even multiplied his capabilities in Rostec, and currently it's one of the biggest tandems existing in the Russian Federation that is going to try to influence the situation in the future of Russian Federation, in the development of Russian Federation, but there is always so-called spoon of tar. Patrushev's son is looking like a comic after all of the scandals in the agrarian sector. He's the vice premier prime minister for agricultural sector. And Chemezov's person Manturov is hardly a serious player who could be viewed in electoral democracy as a person everybody would bet on. And now he's really, really afraid to peek outside, and his promotion was the desire of Putin. I mean, that's my personal opinion. That was Putin's desire to traditionally keep closer those who can be posing some kind of a threat in terms of transition of power. And yet another problem of this group is that there is a biological clock. The race is already on. Who dies sooner, Patrushev or Putin or Chemezov? We cannot answer this question. But again, should we have been talking 5 years ago? We would be discussing the head of Russian railways, one of the most influential state oligarchs. Yakunin, he had health problems, so the problem of biological clock can never be cancelled out. So basically then we have to also discuss the Federal Security Service that is going to play a significant role during the transition of power. For the time being, FSB doesn't have their candidate for presidency. They don't have any conditional leader, somebody whom we would know. On top of that, during the last year, Putin was doing a lot that depended on him to deprive FSB of more power. FSB has two leaders, Bortnikov and his first deputy, Korolev. And Korolev can talk to Putin over Bortnikov's head. He has a lot of authorizations for independent work. Definitely FSB was not transformed into a federal kingdom or feudal system, but still it's supported by Putin. And on top of that, please don't forget about extensive authorizations provided to the Federal Guard Service. So in this case, Putin still understands clearly how FSB may work during the transition of power, because he was a person who became the FSB head thanks to Yeltsin. And from that position, not from the position of the prime minister, he jumped directly into the president's seat. So he's afraid of this story. He keeps track of them. He removed Patrushev for reason from the position of NSDC. And now we have this ambiguous situation in Russian Federation. How the situation may develop during the transition of power, it's difficult to say. We can only forecast with some degree of probability. If everything continues going along this scenario, we will see the fighting of different power groups, the power struggle between different actors during the power transition. Also, we should mention, now that we've touched upon the topic of Federal Guard Service, we should discuss Dyumin, a person who was discussed, who was viewed as a Putin's successor. After the elections, he changed the seat from the Tula governor or Tula region governor to the deputy head of presidential administration, and he got probably not so efficient body, but it's still the state council. For the time being, Dyumin did not demonstrate himself in his position, within the last 15 to 16 months, we haven't seen any activity by the Duma that would demonstrate that he might have been becoming more influential person than he used to be before. But we have definitely to pay attention to him due to one reason, because during the transition of power, we cannot exclude the fact that the State Council may be needed to someone because it has some significant constitutional powers during the power distribution. So the person who may nominally be the head of this council may be interesting to us during the power transition or power shift because their authority can be used. Also, we should discuss Kadyrov and Zolotov. They are discussed a lot as the people who may seriously influence the transition of power, but none of them is interested in any changes. First of all, Zolotov has problems related to the detention of one of his deputies before. Meanwhile, Zolotov started yelling that this detention was initiated to frame him. And also Kadyrov, he has health problems. He has problems with the transition of power to Adam Kadyrov on his end. That's why it looks like during tea time they will be betting on the winner. Someone may try to play winner, but we have to understand that since they were a tandem within the last couple of years, it doesn't necessarily mean that they will remain a tandem during the transition of power.
There is another tandem. It's a Kirienko-Kovalchuki tandem. We separated in this presentation, but in reality we should look at them as a certain serious players in the field. Kirienko is ruling all the regional elites in the Russian Federation. It's a person who is holding in his hands all the threads that are leading to the regional elites, and he is capable of controlling those elites in the moment of the transition of power in the Russian Federation. Also, he possesses quite a significant finance resource, and we can also mention his roots. He comes from Israel. He's Jewish, and the elites during the transition of power in the Russian Federation are playing people like him. Usually during the transition of power in the Russian Federation do not play intensively, so he will probably be looking for somebody to replace him as a he will not be playing directly. He will choose a person to represent him during the transition of power. Also, let's talk about Kovalchuki. These people are holding a very serious media resource in the Russian Federation, and they are influencing, they are affecting social Russian platforms as well. Also, not many people pay attention to this fact. The Kovalchuki and Kirienko are the people who are holding the significant portion of the whole media landscape of the Russian Federation. Like, for example, Vkontakte.ru, Yandex.ru, and other digital platforms. So in reality, as of today, they have not only media influence, but also holders of the base that could be used as a platform for further build-up of political influence in the Russian Federation. This is the base that contains all the information about their election target audience, what they are occupied right now with. They are launching a new messenger in the Russian Federation, and they are becoming a key actor in the Russian Federations in terms of domination in the digital space of the Russian Federation. And despite, it doesn't matter who is going to come to power in the Russian Federation, they will be playing a very significant role in the Russian political life. Let's talk about two more people. This is the people who will be waiting for the results of the transition of power in the Russian Federation. This is Mishustin and Sobyanin. They people of few words. Nobody is expecting any kind of reckless steps from them. Also, there is Putin's family. There was talks about Dmitry, who is Putin's son, allegedly, but nobody is taking this theory seriously right now. It's more of a it's more of a theory that's not being taken seriously, and Putin is not going to, and Putin himself, we're not expecting him to play a huge role in the first cycle of the game, of the political game that is to be that is going to lead to the transition of power in the Russian Federation. And I will repeat myself, I don't believe that in the first cycle of the electoral activity in the Russian Federation, there will be a dark horse who will suddenly appear and tell everybody, I'm overtaking the power. So we think that the people that we are reviewing right now, somebody among them is going to play the biggest role. So let's reiterate. The tandems Patrushev-Chemezov, Kovalchuky-Kiriyenko, probably Igor Sechin. These are the three groups that are playing at least some role in the political life in the Russian Federation. However, the game that they are playing right now, we can call it preparation for the transition of power in the Russian Federation. Also, let me reiterate, the biological clock is ticking, and all these people are over 70 years old, and Bortnikov is Putin's co-ed, they are alumni. And it means that he is the same age as the Putin. However, there is a question that still remains. If Putin will start cleaning or cleansing of his entourage, and what we are seeing right now, that the repression mechanisms in the Russian Federation is rotating more and more intensively. So this is all I have for this question. Any questions on the floor? Maybe you could ask them right now. Maybe you have something to comment. Mr. Vadym, how important are the differences between those groups that you mentioned today that are preparing for the transit of power in the Russian Federation? What are their agenda right now? What is critical? What may be critical conflicts between these groups that could probably lead to from controlled transition of power to uncontrolled transition of power in the Russian Federation? So which group among these that were mentioned today could guarantee a calm transition of power? None of these groups are acting right now as a transition group because they're all afraid to act as one because they're all afraid of Putin. So the separation between these groups, they could be only in two planes. First one is a financial plane, when somebody starts playing on the field of the other, and or maybe this hasn't happened before until now, or at least they could manage coming to a common understanding. However, right now, all these groups are trying not to play the game, in such a way that you become a person redundant in this configuration of political power in the Russian Federation. So everybody is right now is trying to stay in their lane, and we can only tell about one instance when this comes out of the frame that I described is Kadyrov and Sechin, who started demanding more power during his transition from Rosneft to Gazprom. However, other groups did not show any signs of serious activity. Thank you. Another question. There will be a election on the 14th of September. So with this configuration that they have right now, are they going to go as it is, like with Siloviki and regionals? So this is not going to be these two groups, not regionals and Siloviki. No, there will be. It could possibly happen, but it's going to be a totally different story. However, right now, regionals are not playing any kind of significant role in political processes in the Russian Federation. So during autocracy, it is always like this, and from the point of view of influences, you should be paying attention to the family name of a governor, not to his local power. So, however, maybe there are some kind of possible paths that could lead to unforeseen. So no dark horses. No. Thank you. Any more questions? Thank you, Mr. Vadym, for this study. My question is as follows. You are in your report. You haven't mentioned a topic that's being mentioned more and more during recent years is disintegration of Russia. Don't you think there could be some kind of connection between transition of power and disintegration of Russia? Or maybe it could be influenced by the Chinese position, by the position of official Beijing? Thank you. Well, first of all, I would like to tell I am in the total minority in the expert community. I always said that nothing similar to disintegration of Russia will happen anytime soon. What happens in the reality before our eyes, and we will see it again and again in the nearest future, is the disintegration of the post-Soviet contours of the post-Soviet lingering borders, and like, for example, in Moldova, still has to fight for their independence. They need still to decide the Transnistria problem. There are other post-Soviet lingering problems that still needs to be decided. And this is basically still a disintegration of the Soviet configuration, where Russia itself becomes less and less power. Russia becomes an actor that holds less and less power on the post-Soviet in the post-Soviet space, basically. We mentioned all the internal political actors in the Russian Federation, and as you see, not a single structure in the Russian Federation can hope for any kind of significant support among the Russian population. And if the disintegration of such structures is not possible without. So, are you saying that Kadyrov is not interested in disintegration of Russia? Oh, he is afraid of this more than anyone. He for him, what's terrible is death of Putin. Any questions? I have a question about Putin not having a person that he is ready basically to put ahead of him as his successor. Like, for example, in Belarus, Lukashenko has his son. He will be his successor. Everybody already accepted it in Belarus. So we don't see any kind of person like that in Russia. Why it is like that? Is Putin thinking that he is immortal, or?
Well, he doesn't think in such categories. He thinks that he has time still. On the other hand, he's type of a leader who is not going to nominate anybody because he clearly understands the way the mechanisms of power transitions work. He was a person who was picked by the Yeltsin's family to exercise certain functions to save Yeltsin's family, and he may tell a story about him starting betraying this family within the first year, and by the end of his first guidance, he has taken away all the authority. So he understands that the guarantees provided to him, to his family, to the people around him is a mythology. No one would ever comply with these guarantees. And even if he was thinking back in his day about the solution with the State Council, he will shift to after he resigns from the president's seat. After the circumstances in Kazakhstan dating back to 2021, he has made a decision he would be a president until 2036, and then we'll see how things evolve. So all of the resolutions that he has made after the year 2022, I mean, they all count on him staying in that seat until the year 2036. Well, if we don't have any more questions, then we want to thank Mr. Vadym for this wonderful study. Let me remind you that we were discussing the ways the people are preparing to the transition of power in the Russian Federation. And we want to thank the security and defense forces for the opportunity to hold events like this. And the Ukraine Media Center team is putting together the schedule for the upcoming days. Stay tuned.